The Odyssey is probably one of Christopher Nolan's most important films in his career. It's the movie he decided to make after winning Best Picture and Best Director at the Oscars. We can kind of get an idea of where that path led him to this. It also shows how movies like this don't get made and people are craving them. This is Nolan's adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. Matt Damon plays Odysseus, who is trying to return to his home kingdom, Ithaca, after the Trojan War. It's gonna take some time to travel back. Odysseus is on a dangerous voyage and must survive to make it back. Now, I am sure a lot of people know what happens in The Odyssey. If you haven't, I'm pretty sure you have, because this is the epic, the poem, the story that has inspired thousands of stories. But don't worry, I am going to try to not really get into really spoiling on like how things were done or how things were handled, because this is a movie you just got to see to believe. But Nolan is probably one of the only few directors I can think of that has the ambition to do the Odyssey like this. I can imagine some directors today trying to attempt their own version of the Odyssey, but just tonally and practically, that would be a very different movie. This is a very practical movie. Yes, it does have some CGI and VFX to help enhance certain aspects, certain creatures, certain monsters, but it doesn't in any way sacrifice the grandness of it all. It's just impressive how everything is pulled off. I won't go into explaining how every single thing was made. There are tons of interviews and videos about all the behind the scenes stuff, but it's just crazy and impressive to see a film like this that is finding ways to make their actors feel very immersed, and it makes the audience feel immersed as well. While the Odyssey is big and is a spectacle to be seen, Nolan has found ways to make this story feel much more human. Yes, we do have creatures and monsters in this story, but when we see gods in this film, they are not grandiose. They are presented to us in a way to make us feel these characters as humans, as people with history, development. There's never a rich light coming from behind them. They are all humane. There's also just something about how a lot of these characters react to Zeus's law. We see characters that have a stronger connection to this, and some where you could tell they just don't think about it or they don't care at all about it. What really makes this film feel humane is Odysseus himself. Sometimes an adaptation is making him feel very heroic, and this, there's a lot more complexity. This is a character who has regrets and has to face consequences with all the choices he has made. This is impressive to watch, also because Matt Damon is a person that feels easy to get along with. So Damon is playing a character that physically is a lot, and he has to bear the weight of everything. So watching him tackle this on trying to make it feel adventurous while also showing pain in his performance is an insane feature. He was not my first choice for Odysseus, but he really found a way to make it work for him. It just meshes really well with Nolan's brute tone. I just think it also would have been really funny if they just decided to give Odysseus that Boston accent. I would make this a 10 out of 10 if they decided to do that. Really, this entire ensemble stands out. I thought everyone was terrific. A few people that really stood out for me were John Leguizamo and Robert Pattinson. The other star that really is incredible to me is Anne Hathaway. It is very typical for a female character in a Nolan film to be underwritten, and that is somewhat the case in this movie, I will not lie. They do try to do a little bit more with Athena. However, Isabel actually has some depth. There's not much, but Anne Hathaway is really just selling it. When I rewatched it, she stood out the most for me. I'd say the weakest in the entire ensemble is Tom Holland, who isn't even really that bad. It's more so everyone around him is doing laps. I mean, when he's sharing a scene with Anne Hathaway, he is not even on the same level as Anne Hathaway. She is chewing him up. Honestly though, like I said, he is not a super big problem. I'm just happy Holland finally got to do something interesting that isn't a Spider-Man movie. It's been forever. Really, one of my main complaints, though, is the action. Typically, with hand-to-hand combat, it's not something that I think Nolan is the best of. The action I'm referring to is in the final act, and it feels a little bit like how Batman fights in the Dark Knight trilogy. The movements feel a little bit slower than I'd like, and the camera movement doesn't do much, so it's not really able to amplify anything. But then again, it's a big camera that they're shooting with, so I'm sure it was difficult, and overall it works. I just think it's a weaker aspect. act. My other main complaint is just the first 25 minutes of this. It just feels a little clunky having to set everything up. It takes a bit of time to lock in. We're mainly just laying down the foundation of this movie. Part of it has to do with the editing and the flash cuts. It's mainly used to cut back and forth between time, and so the writing also just has to explain to us who Odysseus is and get into the myth itself. It just takes a while for us to finally get into the actual Odyssey. It's very similar in Oppenheimer as far as style and setup. They're both edited by Jennifer Lane, so there are some flash cuts in the first act in both of these films. So even though these stories are opposite from one another, they both have similar themes that go well together. Both are about showing different perspectives from monumental moments. We see the consequences for different characters and how that weight sticks with them. This movie does it incredibly well. There are multiple perspectives of scenes that take place in Troy, and it changes your own outlook, and even on a rewatch, you're viewing things in a different lens. I also cannot forget to mention about Ludwig Göransson's score. At first, I was not amazed by it. For a while, it just felt like a mood piece that was more so just kind of background music. It wasn't super heavy on the melodies. It does a great job on setting the tone, and it did get me pumped up, and I found it effective at times, but at least on the first watch, I was just like, this is good, but nothing super crazy. It wasn't until I rewatched it when I thought it just works so well. The technique and process of making a score without an orchestra and recreating old instruments from that time is already impressive enough. But man, there are some moments in the score that really elevate the movie and just show how some of this stuff is just pure cinema. Some of it does have to do with Nolan's direction, but I mean, that Sirens scene is probably my favorite moment in the entire movie. I won't go into how it's done, but believe me, it is beautiful. But even then, he is still able to make it feel modern, even though he is using old instruments and vocals. It's unique in its own way. The Odyssey is what we need. It has the ambition and drive that so many blockbusters don't have. The minimal amount of CGI isn't distracting, but the way this team can pull off practical effects and make it beautiful to watch is an achievement on its own. Overall, the performances are great. The ensemble is used pretty well. I wish I could go more into each performance, but we would be here forever. I do think the big standouts for me, though, are Damon and Hathaway, just because they both surpassed my expectations based on what they were given. There's just so much about this movie that makes it feel unique in its own way, whether that's with the score, with the production, or even the themes of perspective and consequences. The beginning can feel a little heavy on the exposition and setting the foundation, but even then it doesn't really bother me that much. If you are looking for a movie to watch this summer, this is it. If you are willing to go out of your way to go see this in 70mm, go do it. This is the first movie ever filmed entirely in 70mm. Why not be a part of film history and get to experience that? Again, that's if you are able to do that. I had to travel 3 hours to go experience that. I thought it was worth it though. Can't recommend this enough. Right now, it is definitely in my top 3 Nolan films. I do want to watch it again, and maybe I can get a better idea on where I would place it. I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. If you made it this far, have you seen the Odyssey? Do you plan on watching it? Did you go see it in 70mm? Let me know down below. Let me know what I should review next. Make sure you exercise every day, drink your milk, and have a great day.